Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Welcome in another edition of Curd and Long. Steve Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan. Our guy Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight, and he is in seventh heaven as it is NFL draft week, and he is ready to roll. 3 days of draft coverage, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I can't imagine there's a better show on the radio right now than those guys, him, Trista Crick, and Nick Ashew during the draft coming up this week. I'm sure they'll have lots and lots of takes on that. Horvat, are you hot to trot on any bets or wagers concerning the draft as we get ready for the draft coming up on Thursday? Because you and I will next record a Curd and Long podcast after the first round is done late Thursday night. So you find folks wake up Friday morning and check out another edition of Curd and Long after the Packers hopefully make a pick at 25. Ryan, anything that you like out there?
Yeah, there was a couple things like that I gave out a lot earlier. You know, I mean, at one point, Marvin Harrison to be the first non-quarterback selected was minus 185. That's probably my biggest bet. That's minus 400 right now. There's still a chance, I guess, that maybe like Joe Alt goes, but I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be Marvin Harrison. I think, you know, I like Malik Neighbors. I like Rome Odunze. I like all these wide receivers, but I just think Marvin Harrison is that much better. So I do think that he goes top 5. So I took that. I took Joe Alt to be the 7th overall pick, which right now I think is still like minus 185. Tennessee needs a tackle. They actually had a really good offseason. I don't know if I like Will Levis, but they're going to give him enough weapons and enough pieces to evaluate him. Now they got to get him a tackle. And then one that's still available that I like, I did take like some JJ McCarthy props under 5.5 and stuff, but one in Minnesota to select JJ McCarthy plus 200. One I really like though is Dallas Turner to be the first defensive player taken. I also like Dallas Turner to go to the Atlanta Falcons, which I think right now is like plus 185, plus 200 still. But I mean, if you look at what Atlanta's done the last 3 drafts in the top 10, right? They go tight end, wide receiver, running back. Now they got to get a pass rusher. And Raheem Morris takes over as head coach, defensive-minded head coach. They're pretty much set on offense after picking up Kirk Cousins this offseason. They need a pass rusher. And if you look at Raheem Morris, what he's done as a defensive coordinator the last couple of years, he asks his edge rushers to drop back in coverage more than any other coordinator. And if you look at the pass defense grade, Dallas Turner dropped back in coverage way more than any of these other dudes. So I think he's the perfect fit. That's probably my favorite bet is Dallas Turner to Atlanta at pick number 8. So hopefully they don't trade out of that.
Yeah, I don't like the Tennessee pick, and I don't like the Atlanta pick. And the Tennessee pick, I'm filling in on the Gabe Kuhn show, which you'll be coming on later today after we record this. And we've been talking about that alt pick to Tennessee, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. You have Bill Callahan, Brian Callahan's dad, because Brian's the head coach now in Tennessee. So Bill Callahan's one of the better offensive line coaches in the game. Why am I burning a pick on a left tackle when I've got one of the best offensive line coaches in the game? I don't see any reason to. If Odunze is there, you go get Odunze for Will Levis. If there is Bowers is there, I go get him. I want weapons for Will Levis. I want to put him in the best position to succeed, similar to what Green Bay did for Jordan Love. That should be their priority. And I get, he's a premier left tackle. Okay, fine. I'm not saying he's not a premier left tackle, but I've also heard Ryan Horvat, Notre Dame fan of all Notre Dame fans, question whether or not how good Joe Alt's going to be. So for me, I'm going wide receiver or I'm going the tight end from Georgia at that pick if I'm Tennessee and trying to surround Will Levis with weapons. Again, we don't know how good Will Levis is going to be, but put him in a position to succeed versus wasting a pick on an offensive tackle that you can probably get a tackle in the second round as well versus one of these wide receivers. Now, I know you can argue, well, wide receiver is deep too, Sparky. You can wait on wide receiver. Maybe. But the tight end from Georgia, there's nothing else like him. So that dude is a complete difference maker, and he probably will be there at 8 for Tennessee if they want him. And as far as Atlanta goes, Dallas Turner is the one I always see mocked to him. And it makes sense. I mean, I don't doubt that it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I want to see how much they use Kyle Pitts in Atlanta, because that would be another position where, you draft a tight end there in Atlanta and you trade Kyle Pitts on draft day for something else if this current regime doesn't believe in Pitts, because Arthur Smith's regime did not believe in Kyle Pitts at all. So we'll see about this new coach's regime. All right, let's talk about the Packers. Brian Gutekunskt talked yesterday. Talked about how this draft is the lifeline, the bloodline of this organization kind of going forward. As we talk about this dude as a general manager, who you've had issues with in the past, he has absolutely hit on the last 2 drafts. Like, there's no questioning that he's hit the last couple of drafts. Has he missed on some picks in the last few years? Absolutely, he has. No question. But he said in the last couple. The one thing that was brought up to him was about possibly, moving up. You've got all these picks. You got 11 picks. How about moving up? And he pretty much said, if I move up, it better be for a player that is very special that I may not see in the next few years in this draft. But then he said he wants to end up with 13 or 14 picks in this draft, and that adding picks in this draft is as important as anything else to him. Do you believe, Ryan Horvat, that the Packers will stay at 25?
Man, that's such a tough question, to be honest with you, because, history says they probably trade back.
Can you bet on that, by the way?
No.
You can't bet on that.
No. And it's such a tough question, right? Because, you never really know with Goot, because a couple of years ago when I thought that they were going to go wide receiver, they went quarterback, right? Like, I don't think anybody saw Rashawn Gary, that draft pick, come in. Usually they look for their wide receivers, their skill position players in the later rounds. But I don't know, man, like if the right tackle's there with the right grade, maybe they go after him. I think if they want to go after a corner or a safety, they probably do move back in this draft. But I don't know, man, because there's going to be a lot of really good first round talent there at 25. So I'm actually going to say I do believe that they stay there and they actually use that draft pick, especially with the 2 second rounders, just because, right? Like, if JJ McCarthy ends up being a top 10 pick, and I don't think this happens, but what if Denver really does want Bo Nix and they draft Bo Nix, and let's say like Seattle or somebody goes after Penix,
right?
And then these tackles go and all these stud wide receivers go, like Rome goes, Neighbors goes, Marvin Harrison goes, right? And then Brock Bowers goes. And then like a Dallas Turner goes.
Kid from LSU goes.
Some of these other guys go, and like, I don't know if you like Cooper DeJean's there, or Kool-Aid McKinstry's there, or whatever guy they really, really like. I think they're probably going to take him in this draft just because the Packers don't need a quarterback. They don't need a wide receiver. They could use another wide receiver, right? They don't really necessarily they need some offensive line depth, but I think they're fine with what they have, at least going into the season. You know what I mean? So like they have some spots to fill, but like this is a team that won a playoff game in Dallas. So they're built to win right now. So I think if like the right guy's there, they're going to pick him. And I think the right guy is going to be there. So I actually believe that they do stay at 25 in this year's draft. It won't surprise me if they move back, but I'm going to say yes, that they actually do. I just don't know where they go. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be good value in these DBs and safeties later on. So if they do pick at 25, I think it would be tackle, offensive line.
So Andy Herman asked Brian Gutekunskt for the Pack a Day podcast. He joined me on Wisconsin Sports Daily earlier this week talking about this. He brought it up to Goody at the press conference as far as, your profile for kind of, your tackle position. And Goody said, yeah, bigger, stronger, faster. And he could have just stopped there with some of these guys. But he goes, but we like position versatility too. Meaning the guy that can only play right tackle, he's probably not taking. He wants the guy that can play right tackle, right guard, center, that can pretty much move around and do whatever they want. So that means the tackle from Arizona makes sense, right? Barton, the guy that played tackle at Duke that people think is going to move inside and play guard, he makes sense. That takes out, the guy that I like, Mims. You could forget him because he's not going inside. Forget it. I don't think Guyton becomes a guy unless you think Guyton could go inside. I don't think he could go inside. So maybe they do go offensive tackle / guard, but it's not going to be for one of these 6'8", 340-pound tackles. It's going to be for somebody probably closer to 6'5", would be my guess, or 6'6", that they think can play inside as well as outside. That's how I think this is going to go if they go that way. From a quarterback position, and even offensive tackle. I mean, if you go, we've talked about this. If you go from 25 to 30 and pick up another third-round pick, aren't the guys virtually the same? I mean, is there that much difference in talent from 25 to 30? Or even if you go 25 to the second or third pick in the second round, if you move back like that. And there's still not a huge drop-off, I don't think, at that point. At this point, I guess, I would be surprised if they stay put. I really think they're going back. I would really be surprised, based on the talent that's on the board, that they don't go back. The only way my mind changes on that is if, like, that edge rusher from UCLA, Ryan, who everybody says could very well be the best edge rusher of this draft, if, like, he falls because of medicals or whatever, and he gets to him and they're like, don't care, we're taking him, okay, that's fine. If somebody falls to you that's not supposed to be there, that's an edge rusher. And like you were talking about, with offensive tackles possibly going, wide receivers going, quarterbacks going, they might get a really good edge rusher to fall to them that's not supposed to be there. Then maybe they make that pick at 25. Otherwise, I think they probably go back.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, so like if you want that edge rusher or any of the edge rushers that aren't Dallas Turner, I really do like them, and especially the way that they'll probably be used in this defense. So maybe you do go with somebody like that, right? Like you have the first round grade, but maybe like a medical reason is the reason that they drop in this draft. Yeah, but I mean, I'm with you, man. I could see him moving back. I could see him also sticking there and staying with the pick. Like if this is any other year, some of these wide receivers too, like A.D. Mitchell, might be talked about as the number one wide receiver. Like his player comp is a faster T. Higgins. I love T. Higgins. You want a 6'3" dude that could catch that could catch back shoulder stuff, in the end zone and also burn people off the line of scrimmage. I do. So yeah, we'll see, man. I never really know with Goot.
The other thing about Goot is the thing that we've learned over time is this RAS score, right? The relative athletic score. He likes them around the 8s and the 9s for these guys with their player testing. And for Gutekunskt, it's right here on Packers.com. Players with better RAS numbers may have higher ceilings, greater room to improve their games at the pro level, thanks to that overall athletic ability, Wes Hodkowitz writes. Goot, when asked about it, said, quote, whenever there's discrepancies, whenever you're not sure, you go back to the tape. That's going to be your best predictor of future success is what they've done on tape. And that's kind of what we live by. Again, it's all important. It all factors in. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to play this game. Not play it at a high level at college, but be able to translate to our league and play it at a high level here. That is something that doesn't get talked about a ton. In baseball, if you get to AAA and you're good, like a good pitcher, and then you go to the majors and you suck, and then you get sent back down and you're good. For me, or a hitter, Keston Hiura is that guy, right? Keston Hiura, every time he got sent down to AAA for the Brewers, tore it up. Then he gets called up and loses his talent. We call those 4A players in baseball. I don't know what the term is in college football, but there probably is something to that, where guys are really good college players and maybe just don't translate to the next level, Ryan. And that's got to be a hard thing to try and predict and figure out, probably from a personnel standpoint in a front office for an NFL team.
Yeah, especially in this sport, right? Like a lot of guys, I mean, they're just big lugs when they're in high school and they're done growing. And also, like some of these guys start playing football a lot later too. Like a lot of guys now, especially wide receivers, defensive ends, edge rushers, they play basketball or they play another sport. They get to high school, somebody sees them and is like, hey, we got to get you on the football field, right? So these guys are just learning the game. Maybe like a lot of these guys aren't even developed yet, or they could put on more muscle, or they could add a little bit more speed when they take off some weight, stuff like that. So Rashawn Gary, a really good example. We didn't really know his full potential because of the way that they used him also in that system at Michigan, so that's the other thing. You want good testing skills. You want a guy that maybe he's a late bloomer that could still develop, right? And that's what Green Bay does a really good job at looking at. Right. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah. There are some guys like that though. Some guys that kind of also injury history has a lot to do with it, and scheme fit has a lot to do with it. A lot of these guys in college are really damn good players. We just don't know about it. Right. Remember LSU like 15 years ago before Joe Burrow was there 10 years ago, and they had like this crazy run of wide receivers where it was Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And we were like, I wonder if these guys are any good because they didn't even throw the football. They just ran the ball nonstop. I think that has to do with it too. It's just like scheme fit. You don't really know what a lot of these guys are. And there's so many players in college football. It's hard to evaluate all of them. And some guys just don't get on the field enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And that's, again, what makes this a difficult deal. I always hear, oh, it's a crapshoot. That's disrespectful to anybody that works in a front office of a sports team. We talk about it with the NBA draft. Oh, it's a crapshoot. They got lucky with Giannis. Yeah, but John Hammond and Billy McKinney put all that time and effort into going over there and scouting him, doing all the background checks on him, talking to coaches, talking to friends. I wish somebody would do a documentary on literally the life of a scout or a personnel director leading up to a draft. And I don't care what sport it is. It could be baseball, basketball, football, hockey, don't care. Just go ahead and do it, right? Have a camera guy follow around and be in a car with a scout, and he drives from one city to another city and goes in and watches film day to night and talks to coaches and talks to players, and then gets on the phone and starts calling friends and different people about that guy, and then writing the reports and what all is in the reports. And then leading up to the draft as guys are stopping for their guys to be higher on the draft board for their team. Like, go ahead and do that. It could be a 3-hour documentary. I'd watch all of it. I would be completely in. Like, it would open up eyes to people that don't respect what these guys do. Guys and girls, both. What they do. It is such a tough process, Ryan, that when somebody is really good at it, it's not a crapshoot. They get it. Elliot Wolf is in New England, literally told the media in New England, I'm doing what we did at Green Bay. I respect what Bill Belichick did and how he did his process here. I know what we did at Green Bay works, and we're going to put in a similar process to what we did at Green Bay. Gutekunskt in his press conference talked about Ted Thompson and said, we pretty much do it the same way Ted did. We streamlined it a little bit to be more efficient, but for the most part, it's the same thing. I hate when I hear the draft is a crapshoot. It drives me nuts.
Same. I completely agree with you too, man. I mean, no, again, I mean, there's going to be hits and there's going to be misses, right? I mean, you could see a guy at the college level and, something just doesn't translate. Maybe, I don't know, man, like maybe he can't pick up the pro games. But see, like that's the other thing is that's where you really make your money, I guess, like because everybody has talent at that level. Everybody can play the sport, but you also like, you got to do your homework on, and that's why a lot of this stuff does matter. Everybody's like, why does everybody like JJ McCarthy? Everybody was like, okay, he's a leader, blah, blah, blah. But everybody was like, Anthony Richardson is a great athlete, but he's never going to be a great quarterback. And a lot of people were like, well, hold on. And people said the same thing about Josh Allen. They were like, well, he wants to learn. He wants to put in the work. I think a lot of that matters too, right? I mean, like Jamarcus Russell's a good example where they were giving him the practice tape or giving him the game film, and he wasn't even going back and watching the film. Correct. You gotta do your homework and know who's good on the field, off the field, who's a learner, who's wants to be developed, who wants to learn, all that stuff. Yeah. That's why it's not really a crapshoot, man. You got to put together the talent, the tape, the RAS or whatever the hell, with
and the system, that you run. Like you've got to draft guys for the system that you run. If you run a 3-4 defense, you're drafting different type of players than somebody that's running a 4-3 defense. And that was the most infuriating thing about Ted Thompson was poor Dom Capers is trying to run his defense, and Ted's drafting 4-3 ends and telling Capers, I'm sorry, dude, he's a football player. Figure it out. Yeah. We're taking football players. Oh, my God, I wanted to scream.
That's the other thing, man, is like I like the coaching staff, especially like if you have a new defensive coordinator coming in. They got to have some say in this process.
Yes.
The floor has to have some say in this process, right? Like you can't draft this slot wide receiver that LaFleur has no idea how to use the dude, right? You can't draft a dude that's meant to play with his hand in the dirt to be your edge rush. Like you got to draft guys. That was a Ted thing too, man. He would just draft guys, right? Because of their scores, because of their potential. And a lot of those guys were good football players. Like no doubt Demarius Randall was a hell of an athlete, but I don't know that he was a football player. I don't know that he was a corner. I don't know that he was a safety. And that's an issue. Quentin Rollins was a freaking small forward. He wasn't a football player. So sometimes, right, you got to look at the system. You got to look at like natural fit, where these guys can play. And I do think that Goot does a much better job of that. We'll see. This is a big year, right? Like this is really, Goot hasn't had to draft Because I mean, like those were his teams, but they weren't really his teams when they were Aaron's teams. You know what I mean? Like when Aaron was in that building, that was his team. So now Goot's drafting for his quarterback. Jordan loves his quarterback. He's drafting for his head coach because he was involved in the LaFleur hire. He's drafting now for his defensive coordinator because this was his choice. You know what I'm saying? Whereas now, like the Band-Aid's been ripped off. This isn't a rebuild, but it's a retool because the team's good. But now you got to like put together the pieces of how to win a Super Bowl rather than, hey, this guy might be good in 3 years. We don't need any more Rashawn Gary, Van Ness projects. We need guys, I hope, that play this year. I don't know if you agree with that. I mean, if you're taking a guy that might not play 100% of the snaps, you at least need guys in the first couple rounds that are going to contribute this year, not in 3 years. Because this team, is projected to win 11 games this year. Their win total's 10.5. They're one of the favorites to win the NFC North. They're right there with Detroit.
I think this draft could be the Super Bowl draft. And what I mean by that is, he's got a good base of young talent already on this roster. But this could be, the 2 or 3 impact players that put them over the top. And I'm not going to say this year, but maybe in the 25 season, they go to a Super Bowl. Or the 26 season, they go to the Super Bowl. And you look back and go, it was these 2 players and that draft in 24, their maturation, and now they take that next step. And that's kind of what put them over the top. This could be that Super Bowl draft when you start talking about 5 possible picks or more in the first 2 days of the draft. This could be the draft that puts them over the top when we look back at this after they go and win a Super Bowl here in the next couple of years. Yeah, I'm saying it. Jordan Love's going to win a Super Bowl. Deal with it. Steve Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM The Fan. Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, weeknights with Trista Crick and Nick Ashu. Watch them and listen to them on the BetQL Radio Network or check them out as well on your Odyssey app. Take a quick time. I'll come back. Let's do our final mock draft. The next time we'll record will be Thursday night after round 1. After round 1 is done, Ryan Horvat and I will record another curtain log. You can download it right away Friday morning. We'll give you our thoughts on the draft, on the Packers pick, and what we'd like to see the Packers do in rounds 2 and 3. Now, who knows? Maybe they won't even make a pick in round 1. We'll still do a curtain log after the round 1 and talk about everybody else, and then look ahead to rounds 2 and 3 for the Packers. Up next, our final mock draft coming up here on Curd and Log. Hey, it's Sparky Fifer, 1250 AM The Fan, along with Ryan Horvat of BetMGM tonight on Curd and Log, our final mock draft before the draft comes up here on Thursday night. Ryan Horvat, let's go 4 rounds, if that works for you. Would you like to go ahead and do it?
I would. I'm so excited that I already got it set up. All right, so I'm going to use Pro Football Focus because I paid the money, so I might as well use it, right?
Hey, I got an idea. Hold on. I got an idea. Let's both do it.
Okay.
Let's both do it. I'm going to use Pro Football Network. So we'll have 2 totally different boards of players that we're picking from, and then we'll go from there. All right, go ahead. You go first with your first pick.
Can I offer a trade? No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to start.
You could trade down if you want. You could trade up. You could do whatever you want. But you could go first with the first pick. Packers on the board at 25 to begin with.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go regular. I'm not going to trade up. Caleb Williams goes 1, Jaden Daniels 2, May 3, Harrison 4. All right. Wow. JJ McCarthy, number 6 to the Giants. I like that. All right. So Chop Robinson just went at 24 to Dallas.
He went 23 to the Vikings. I'm
sitting here at 25, right? We got Newton from Illinois. We got my boy, Cooper DeJean. We got A.D. Mitchell. We got Kool-Aid McKinstry. We got Jackson Powers Johnson. We got Troy Franklin. We got Ladd McConkey. Where am I going? I'm going to make you mad, Spark. We're going to go with Cooper, big game, DeJean. With our pick, he could play safety. He could play inside. He could play outside. He's the next Jason Sehorn. And yes, I'm saying that because he's white.
Also, on my pick here at Pro Football Network's mock draft, I have Byron Murphy the second sitting there, Cooper DeJean, Grant Barton, which a lot of people think will be the pick, Tyler Guyton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Mitchell, Worthy, Keon Coleman is still there as well. Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle from Arizona, which everybody seems to think is a pick. If you go on Packers social media, everybody now has come over to the Jordan Morgan pick for the Packers, the offensive tackle from Arizona. That's where everybody thinks they're going to go. I am not going to do that, however. I think they're going to let Kenny Clark walk after this year. And I'm going to go Byron Murphy II from Texas, who has a RAS score of 9.23. Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle from Texas, will be the pick for the Packers for me at 25. All right, next pick coming up now will be pick 41, Ryan Horvat, your Pro Football Focus mock draft. What say you?
Pick 41, which also happens to be my favorite Dave Matthews song. Shout out to Dave Matthews, just announced the other night in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, baby. All right, so 41, we got Troy Franklin. We got Tyler Nubin here, the safety from Minnesota. We really need a safety. Oh, Troy Franklin, Spark. I love him. He's 6'3". He's not the biggest guy, but he's a burner. I would love him in this offense, but we're going to go with Tyler because we need a safety. We'll take the safety from Minnesota here at pick 41.
All right, he's on the board for me as well. Lad McConkey is still there at mine at this pick as well, the wide receiver from Georgia. Zach Frazier from West Virginia. Jalen Polk, the wide receiver from Washington. Max Melton, the quarterback from Rutgers, is still there. But I'm going linebacker because I think there is a definite difference between Edgerrin Cooper and everybody else. So I'm going to take Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M, at pick 41 and take care of that. So far, I've got defensive tackle and linebacker for the Packers with their first two picks. Next pick 58, Ryan Horvat, back to you.
Here's where it gets a little tough for me, right? Because, Edgerrin Cooper's there for me as well. We do need a linebacker. But you know what I'm going to do, Spark? I'm going to take Ricky Pearsall, who led Florida in receiving yards and receptions. We're going wide receiver. We're going with a guy that stayed healthy and played all 12 games last season, baby, for Florida. He was good enough to make Graham Mertz look good. He'll be good enough to help out Jordan Love in this offense. Ricky! That's a Boys in the Hood reference.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
That's good. Okay, now for the Packers' next pick, I have things that I would like to do here, and I'm going to go safety, and I'm going to take Jaden Hicks, the safety from Washington State, with that pick at 58. Jaden Hicks, the safety from Washington State. I love him as well. So far, defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety as I continue to work on trying to fix that defense. Your pick next up, third round, pick 88, Ryan Horvat.
Love it. And I'm going to end up getting a guy that I really want. I'm going to get Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who's a really smart linebacker. He's always in the right position. Doesn't have great strength. Doesn't have great length, size. That's the issue. But he's got really good instincts. He's good in zone coverage. He's got good patience. Again, he's just not the biggest guy, but he's gotten better every single year. 6 foot, 230 out of Clemson. So we're going to draft Jeremiah Trotter, linebacker here. Really good run defender. And that's what Green Bay needs, man. They really need some help with the run defense. So come on down, Jeremiah Trotter. We got that pick at 91 coming up.
Yeah, I like it. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is still there as well for me at this point. However, I am going to take a guy that I want to take. I got to say, I'm kind of in love with the idea of having him on the defensive line. I know I already took a defensive tackle, but maybe they could play together in Green Bay like they played together in Texas. Tavondre Sweat, my friend, and we'll go pick 88. So both defensive tackles from Texas will play for the Green Bay Packers side by side. Go ahead, Ryan Horvat.
Love it. Make you sweat. Sweat till you can't sweat no more. I'm going to take A.J. Dillon. Get the hell out of here. We're taking big game Ray Davis, who I think should be a mid-round selection. Really good footwork. Has one cut ability. Good hands. Could catch the football. Can get overwhelmed a little bit in pass pro, but it's okay because right now he's not an every down back. I think eventually he's going to be a starter, though. We're getting Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky, Pro Football Focus grade of 90.9. Come on down.
Don't mind Ray Davis at all, but I like Jalen Wright better out of Tennessee, so I'll take Jalen Wright with that pick at 91. All right, last pick coming up, 126 in the fourth round here. And then we'll go through and compare and contrast the picks for both of us. I'm not taking a single offensive lineman to this point for the Green Bay Packers. The odds of them not taking an offensive lineman through 3 rounds of the NFL draft is probably slim to none, but that's how it's fallen so far for me. Ryan Horvat, what do you got at 126?
Damn it, man. Audric Estime's here.
You didn't want him earlier.
I like, I'm going to go Audric Estime's here. Also, Sion Vaki's here, who actually had to play running back for Utah last year. He's a safety. I really like him. But like you said, man, I think we need some depth on the offensive line. I'm going to go with this Matt Concalves kid from the tackle from Pittsburgh, who only played 3 games, got hurt. He could play some guard. He could play some tackle. We need some depth. So I'll take a tackle here.
All right, very good. I have a debate right now at this pick. I love Mason McCormick, the South Dakota State guard. He's got a high RAS score. But I really kind of fallen in love with Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon. 6'3". He's long. He can run. He's got everything that you want in a corner, and he's big. Now, he's undersized, right? His RAS score is 7.86. Do you need a corner more than you need a guard? That is the question. I'm going Kyrie Jackson over the guard. I'll just sum it up. 4 rounds, no offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers. And I know that's probably not going to happen, but that's where we have it. So for me, Ryan Horvat, Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas, Adrian Cooper, the linebacker from Texas A&M, Jaden Hicks, the safety from Washington State, Tavondre Sweat, the defensive tackle from Texas, Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee, Kyrie Jackson, the corner from Oregon. I would be ecstatic if that's what the draft looks like after 4 rounds, even though they don't take an offensive lineman anywhere in there. And I also would be ecstatic from the aspect of adding all that talent to a new defensive coordinator to infuse it to what they already have. Horvat, what did you end up with?
I got a Pro Football Focus says, great job. That's a good looking draft. No suggestions available for the draft. So
look at you.
So for Coop, they give me an A+. For TN, the safety from Minnesota, I get an A. For RP, Ricky, I get an A. For Jeremiah Trotter, a C-. For Ray Davis, a B. For Matt Concalves, A-. And then I accidentally hit 5 rounds, and I took Richardson, the defensive back from Mississippi State, and they gave me a B- for that. So I got an A. Baby!
Good
Book
job.
the parade. Super Bowl is back on in Green Bay. I kind of wish I would have drafted Audric Estime over Ray Davis, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, Notre Dame guy. There he is, Ryan Horvat. Follow him on Twitter, Ryan Horvat. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Thursday night after the first round, we'll do another one of these curtain logs going up till Friday. And then I may just do one Friday night. I'm not going to make Horvat do it if he doesn't want to. After the Packers make all those picks on Friday, I think we should probably do another one. So maybe Ryan and I will do it Friday night. Otherwise, I'll just do it by myself because God knows there'll be enough to talk about if they have all these picks on Friday. That'll do it. Ryan Horvat, I hope you win a lot of money.
I like this idea. Can you ask Mitch if I could have the night off of BetMGM tonight, and me and you will just do? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. That'd be fun. Ryan Horvat, thank you so much, my friend. Hope you make lots of money on the draft.
Thanks, man.
You betcha. Take care. Have a good one. Toodles.